Can you hear me? Can you please type your answers in your chat window? Tell me if you can see me. Tell me if you can hear me. Can you all see me, guys, girls? Great, great. What about the rest? Yep. All right. Thanks, Rajat. That's it? Hi, hi. Okay. All good here? Okay, very good, Ashad. Okay, we're just gonna wait for a minute to see if anybody else arrives. Then we'll just start off. I wonder why people are unable to join properly today. All the emails were sent. Okay. All right. All right. Fine. Yeah, I believe we start. So, good morning, everyone. Well, it's lovely to see you all. Yep. Okay, so it's lovely to see you all. Welcome to this webinar on IELTS hosted by Change Institutes International. My name is Rahim, as many of you know me, and to the ones who don't, I am an online IELTS trainer for Change Institutes International, Bangalore. Okay, currently logging in from Toronto, Canada, and it's way past midnight, and I'm joining you here, sacrificing my sleep. Okay, all right. So, well, before we begin with the IELTS webinar, I would just like to thank you for joining us and taking out your precious time to attend this webinar. So thanks a lot, guys, and I hope everybody is safe and healthy in these troubled times. I mean, it's getting worse and worse every day, and I hope everybody is safe. Yeah, I'm waiting for a reply. Great. Okay. Oh, all right, Richard. Great, great. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, so let me first introduce what we are going to talk about in this webinar. Um, Arshad, is there any option to unmute? Unmute what? You can't talk, Arshad. You will have to type. Okay, so participants in the webinar cannot talk. Okay, only the hosts are allowed to. Okay, all right. Um, okay, before we start off, I would just like to say that the chat window, let's keep it for questions at the end of the webinar. Okay. All right, let's not keep typing so that the flow gets interrupted. So if you have any questions, we will definitely address it at the very end. All right. Okay. So let's start off our webinar today. And today we're going to talk about some common mistakes in IELTS. Okay. And before we jump right into that, I would like to tell you what we are going to cover in this webinar. We're first going to talk about an intro to IELTS. This is for the people who have no clue what IELTS is about, who have applied for a visa, but, have no idea about the exam. Okay. Then we're going into an introduction to IELTS writing. All right, and then we are going to step into our major topic, common errors in the IELTS writing module. Okay, then we're going to focus on a little bit of vocabulary, content and delivery of your writing material, and at the end, we are going to take some question and answers. All right, there'll be one break in between. Okay, as soon as the third bulletin point is completed, we're going to take a short break. Okay. All right. And at the end, I'm going to discuss some courses that are offered by Change Institutes and the ways you can contact us. Okay. And I might have something in store for everybody who is attending this webinar. So brace yourselves for it. Okay. All righty. So getting into the first part of the webinar, that's an intro. Um, IELTS is, let me start off by expanding on the abbreviation. IELTS is the International English Language Testing System. Okay, this was put into place because there are countries, English-speaking countries that need immigrants, right? And if that particular immigrant is from a non-English-speaking country, okay, he's called a non-native English speaker. So there would be a lot of communication gap, right, with that speaker and the locals in the country he's moving to. So IELTS was put into place to bridge this gap, all right, and it's been here ever since 1989, and it's jointly managed by three people: a British Council, IELTS, IDP IELTS Australia, and Cambridge Assessment English. Okay, so these three guys, these three organizations, they manage IELTS together. Okay, and there are a lot of countries where you can migrate or immigrate to in order to work or study or get a PR visa. Some of those countries have been listed here: Britain, Ireland, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Germany, Netherlands, the United States of America, and some other countries in Europe that actually accept English as a standardized language, right? Like Germany, Italy, France, Spain, okay, to name a few. All right, so you can immigrate to any of these countries using IELTS as a standardized test for English. Okay, so IELTS measures your proficiency in speaking English. All right, so and you can when you want to actually attempt the test, you can do it in two modes. There are two ways of giving this test. First is the computer-based test, where you will be giving your exam on the computer, and you have the paper-based test, where you'll be, traditionally, using a pen and a paper. Okay, all right. Some good news for you guys. There's no minimum score. That is, you won't fail in IELTS. Uh, since this is a proficiency test, it will test your proficiency rather than pass or fail you. Okay, so they have something called band scores that are used to measure a candidate's proficiency in English. Okay, they have 9 band scores. One being the most non-user. Okay, this is for the non-user of English. Okay, and 9 being an expert user. Okay, so so if you're a non-user, that means you do not know English at all. You just know a couple of words here and there. And an expert user is somebody who can form complex sentences, who knows vocabulary, who knows his grammar, and who can present English and communicate pretty well. Okay, all righty. Um, at the end of the IELTS exam, 13 days later, okay, or 8 days later for a computer delivered test, you get something called a test report form. That's going to be a scorecard. Okay, this will give you all the band scores that you have received. All right, and this is valid for 2 years. Okay, so if you have a visa in process, make sure that process is completed before 2 years. Otherwise, you will have to reapply for IELTS. Okay, here's another thing about IELTS that's good. There is no limit on the number of attempts that that are required to clear the IELTS exam. All right. And now when I talk about the minimum score not being set, there is a little bit of a catch. Okay. Um, IELTS itself doesn't really fail or pass candidates, but the universities or the organizations that you'll be going to, they might have set a particular, threshold. You cannot score below that score, right? So universities and organizations, they have, they have a band score set around 7.5, or some organizations have 6, right? So you need to fulfill that criteria in order to get into those organizations, right? But IELTS itself doesn't have a minimum score. All right. And there are two major modules in IELTS. One is the academic module, and the second is the general training module. The academic module is for students, okay, who want to apply at universities or colleges around the world, okay, or in the countries I mentioned specifically, right? And the general training test is for everybody else, okay, especially those who want to go to work, or if you want to apply for a PR visa, right, or simply immigrate to another country and you know uh, just start working, or be in the federal skilled worker program, whatever, right? So all these guys would be giving the general training test, and the students, right, will be giving the academic test. All right, so this is the difference. And there's not much of a major difference between the two. It only happens in the writing test, all right, the writing module, where there is a little bit of a difference in section A, which I will be discussing in a bit. Okay, and each of these modules has 4 parts: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And you will be tested, your proficiency will be tested in all the 4 of these parts. Okay, so you need to get a high band score in all the 4, okay, in order to get an overall band score of, the desired band score that you would like. Okay, I'm not going to go too much into detail in this because this is all general information. And if you need any other information regarding IELTS, or if you want to book a test, all you got to do is log on to this website, www.idp.com/global/IELTS. Okay. All right. Moving on. Let's go on to the writing module. Okay. Now, before I begin my introduction to this, the reason why we are doing this webinar today is because there is a misconception among students, okay? They think that if they score a good score, right, if they get a good band score in listening, reading, and speaking, it's implied that that they would get a higher band score in writing as well, okay? This is not true. It's a very big misconception that our students have and our candidates have. And a lot of my students have come and told me, sir, look at me, I've got an 8 in speaking, I've got an 8 in listening, I've got a 9 in reading. What about my writing? Why haven't I got a 5.5? Right? The reason is because writing is more technical. Okay, in listening and reading tests, you are writing a few words, like 1 word per answer or 2 words per answer. Okay, but you're not going too deep into vocabulary and grammar, right? You're not applying all those things that we do in sentences, right? We're not thinking too much technically, all right, when we are giving our listening and reading tests. Even in speaking, you can be a little informal when you're talking, but in writing, you need to be very formal. So all of these aspects and the aspects that I'm going to discuss in this webinar tell you that writing is a lot more technical, okay? So to get into the IELTS writing module, it's for 60 minutes. You get 1 hour, and you have 2 sections, okay? Part A and Part B, where in the 2 modules, Part B is common, okay? The 2 modules being academic and general training, okay? The common one is the essay writing. That is section B, all right? And that is for 40 minutes, all right? So if it has a higher time frame, excuse me, if it has a higher time frame, it definitely has higher marks. Okay, so it carries more marks than, you know, the academic or the general training section A. Okay, for this you get 40 minutes, and you have a word limit for this. All right, you will have to write an essay in not less than 250 words. Okay, you cannot go below it. That is your threshold. All right, so that's your essay. That's section B, and always remember to attempt the section B first in your writing test because it carries more marks, and a lot more time is allotted to it than section A. Okay. Section A is for 20 minutes and it has a word count of 150 words, and it's different in the academic module and the general training module. All right. Uh, in the academic module, section A is report writing. Okay. So what happens here is you're given a chart or a graph or a process or a diagram or a map. Okay. And you are supposed to convert that pictorial representation into words. Okay. Say, for example, you have a bar graph, right, with readings and observations. You'll need to summarize those observations, summarize those readings, okay, and compare those, whatever readings you get, and conclude as to what that chart or the graph or the picture tried to achieve. All right, so this is called report writing. All right, and that is what you are going to do in section A of the academic module. The general training module, however, is a little easier and a little non-technical than the report writing, which is letter writing. We've all done this before. In our schools, in our colleges, we have written love letters to our babes, everything, right? But when it comes to letter writing in IELTS, it doesn't seem as easy as it was in school. Okay, and I will be getting into a lot more detail when I discuss my following slides. All right, so section A is for 20 minutes, and it's got a word limit of 150 words. You cannot go below that. Now you might ask me, what is 150 words? Okay, or what is 250 words? Do I sit and count the words? No, it's simple. You count the lines and the paragraphs instead. Okay, for 150 words, you would be writing around 3 to 4 paragraphs. Okay, of about 5 to 6 lines. Okay, and for 250 words, you're going to write about 4 to 5 paragraphs, max 6. Okay, with again 5 to 6 lines. Okay, you can extend your letters or your essays, but don't make them too long. Okay, that becomes really tiring for the evaluator to read. Okay, it's a tiring job for an evaluator to sit and read and mark all those errors that he's going to find. So avoid that, but make sure it is above 150 and 250 words. Okay, so having said that, let's jump right into what we are here to discuss about. Okay, and we are here to discuss the common errors in IELTS writing. Now, these errors are made by our Indian audience in particular. Okay, now, and these errors are so fatal and so silly, and some are technical. Okay, that you might think that, oh my God, you know what? If I don't do these errors, I can actually nail the test. And you can. All you have to do is follow the correct approach. Okay, look, IELTS is not a difficult exam or a test. Okay, it's tricky. Okay, and it's technical. All right, you need to know the techniques to go about writing an essay, writing a letter, writing a report, etc. Okay, if you know these techniques, you're fine. All right, okay, here's the first one. Okay, the first mistake, and this is a mistake that everybody commits. All right, and we've done this when we were in school as well, especially with our math paper, right? Not reading or understanding the task or the question. Okay, we are we are either in a hurry, or we're just too lazy to read the question. Okay, we think, okay, yes, this is an essay question. You know, oh, is this what it's going to talk about? All right, I can write about it. But it's a lot more, deeper than that. Okay, so here's an example. Like I'd like to give you an example. Well, what students do is they like to generalize a topic. Okay, so if I have to talk, you should spend about 40 minutes on this task. These are the instructions. Now you have to read them very carefully, before heading into writing, your essays and letters. Okay, now this is a typical essay in an IELTS exam. So this is section B. Make sure you read everything from top to bottom and understand that. Whatever they're trying to say, try and understand it. Okay? Okay. You should spend about 40 minutes on this task. All right? Write about the following topic. Some of the methods used in advertising are unethical and unacceptable in today's society. To what extent do you agree with this view? Okay, that's your question. Now you have to write about methods in advertising that are unethical, okay, in today's society. And you will have to give your opinion whether you agree on it, whether you disagree on it, or whether you partially agree on it. Okay, it's totally up to you. You can choose. All right. But it doesn't end here. The question continues. All right. So read the entire thing. Give reasons for your answer and include any relevant examples from your own experience or knowledge. Write, a, write at least 250 words. Now, along with, you know, uh, giving your opinion, whether you agree, disagree, or partially agree, you are also giving reasons as to why you chose to agree or chose to disagree or whatever, right? You're giving reasons and relevant reasons, okay? Along with those reasons, you are giving examples, okay, connected to those reasons. All right. So you are doing all of this. The question and the instructions are clear, and they expect you to do this in an exam. Okay. So make sure you read the question and understand it. Here's what some students do. When they see the word advertising, they think that, oh, it's a general topic. I can write about it. And they start writing stuff that is completely unrelated to the topic. Okay. That should be avoided. All right, I'm going to discuss that in my following slides in detail. But understand that don't generalize a topic. You need to focus on what the instructions are asking you to do. Okay, so always read the question. Read the question once, twice, thrice until you get it. Okay, understand it and then proceed. Okay, so what do we take from this point is you read the instructions clearly and understand the question. Now, here's another thing about the IELTS evaluation. There is criteria. There's different criteria for evaluation, and one of those criteria is task achievement. Okay, what is task achievement? When you are given a question and certain instructions, you are expected to address the question and whatever instructions they have given you, right? They want you to answer all those things that they have asked you to answer, correct? So that is called task achievement. And IELTS evaluators are on the lookout for task achievement, whether the candidate achieved the task. Why do they want that? Because that tells the evaluators that the candidate has understood the question. Okay? So always, task achievement is very important. Okay, do not generalize the topic. You have been asked about some methods in advertising that are unethical. Stick to that. Give reasons. Give examples. Then proceed. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the second one, which is an extension of the first. Okay. Writing about something that does not directly answer the essay question. Again, this can happen because you haven't understood the question. That's one reason. The second reason is when you have started writing your essay, there is something called a writer's block. Okay, this is experienced by authors, playwrights, and experienced people who are into literature, right? They appear at a point in their writing where they completely go blank. They are not able to process any more information. Okay, they just go, their mind goes black. All right, they're completely out of ideas. All right, you will also face the situation. Okay, especially when you're writing an essay, where an essay has a lot of ideas in your head, right? And you're not able to put that on a piece of paper, right? Or on the computer. You will hit that block. It's very important not to hit that block. Okay. So what happens when you hit that block? You begin to feel frustrated. You freak out. Okay. And you start going about in directions and in places where which has nothing to do with the essay question whatsoever. Okay. You begin to drift. You begin to you begin to digress. Okay, and you're talking about something completely new and completely unrelated to the essay question. All right, so this is a very important point for our Indian audience. All right, especially those who have been practicing English, and for those who are not very proficient but they want to be. Okay, they've been practicing well, but at the end they hit a block, right? Okay, so what can you do to avoid a block? First, when you have read the question, don't jump into writing your answers. Okay? Sit back, relax. Okay? Take the time. Take a couple of minutes. I know that you're strapped for time. I know you only have 40 minutes. Okay? But what you can do is you can just sit back and let that answer, let that question sink into your heads. We all have thick skulls, right? So it needs time for us to absorb that answer. All right. Take it in, understand it. Okay. Think for a couple of minutes as to what can be an answer to this question, and then begin to write. And trust me, when you write the introduction, you will be able to write a proper essay. When I say introduction, I mean an effective introduction, okay, which I will be discussing again, all right, in this webinar. Okay. Always think before you write. Okay, never jump into writing. Now, here's what happens when you jump into writing. First of all, you hit a writer's block. Second, when you make a mistake and you think that, oh, this idea is not proper in this sentence, you will have to scratch the entire thing out. If you're in a computer test, that's okay. You can hit backspace and restructure your idea. But when you're actually giving a traditional pen and paper test, you need to scratch that entire part, and that looks untidy. Okay, and untidiness, scratching on the paper and all that, are signs that you're not clear, when you express your ideas. Okay, so evaluators are looking at that. All right, so always, okay, always think before you write, and you will get the idea as to where to go with your writing. Okay, stick to the question, answer to the point. All right. Another thing about digressing is when you don't know what type of essay or letter or report you're writing. Okay, that's going to be my next pointer. Okay, so if you do not know the type of letter or essay or report that you're writing, you might miss out on some key formatting tips that are completely different to what you've written, and to compared to the things that are actually needed, right? So that's what we're going to discuss now. Knowing the type of letters, essays, and reports. Now, I have an example below, okay? And I'm going to read it, and I want you to answer. I want you to type, okay? And tell me what type of letter this is, okay? You are, okay, so first we start off with the first line, always, all right? You should spend 20 minutes on this task, and you must write at least 150 words. With 20 minutes, we can establish that this is section A, okay, of the writing module, and 150 words at least, all right? You are renting a flat from an agency. Your contract was for 1 year, but you need to leave the flat 2 months early. Write a letter to the agency. In your letter, you should introduce yourself, ask to leave the flat before the contract finishes, and explain why you need to break the contract. Okay? Now, tell me, what type of letter is this? Does anybody have an answer? Formal letter? Okay, Jinsey, formal? Formal? Anybody else with a different answer or something? No? Okay. Well, you're right. All three of you got it right. It's a formal letter. Okay? Letter of excuse. Okay. Wow. Okay. Thank you, buddy. You went a little deeper. All right. Now, understand that there are only three types of letter you will get in IELTS. You get a formal letter, a semi-formal letter, or a personal letter. Okay, these are the only three types. Now, of course, as you guys said, all three of you were right. Very good. This is a formal letter. But what is that criterion that separates a formal letter from the other two letters? Or rather, what is a formal letter? What is a semi-formal letter? And what is a personal letter? Okay, that is the question. Now, let me just tell you the basic difference. Formal letter is for a person who is, who you've never met in your life. Okay, he can be a person from this agency, okay, who you've never met, or a person from a travel company, or somebody from Amazon who you would like to complain to, right? Somebody you've never met, or somebody who is at a higher ranking position, all right, at a higher designation, all right, than you are, like your boss, not your immediate boss, but a CEO, or the chairman of the board, or the director. Okay, so all these people hold that importance in that organization. The only relationship that you share with them is they know that you exist. That's about it. Okay, nothing else. Okay, so these people qualify for formal letters always. Okay, now when we talk about formal letters, we're talking about a lot of things here. Formal letters need to be very carefully drafted. Okay, your language, okay, your language needs to be proper. Your openings and closings need to be proper. Okay, like what are you going to say when you are closing a letter for, a formal person, right? What are you going to say? You cannot say yours lovingly. Okay, that person is going to kick you out of his company, right? You cannot say yours truly. That is also really it's really unambiguous, right? So instead, you can always use sincerely. Okay, your sincerely is the safest bet for a letter. Okay, or if you don't work for him, never use faithfully. Okay, if you don't work for that person who you're writing the letter to, never use yours faithfully. Yours faithfully is only for people who work under that person. Okay, like if you write a letter to the chairman, it's yours faithfully. Okay, you can also use yours sincerely. It's, that's universal. All right, so it can be used everywhere. All right, now that's about the formal letters. Coming to the semi-formal letters. Now, what is the difference between a formal letter and a semi-formal letter, right? A semi-formal letter is for people who you know personally, okay, but in a formal setting. Okay, say for example, your colleague. Okay, your colleague is a great example for somebody who you would write a semi-formal letter to. Say for example, this colleague of yours is very close to you. He's like almost a buddy to you. You hang out with him. You go out. You go out to watch movies with him. You go out to dinners and lunches. All right. You smoke together, etc., etc. You share a personal bond with this person. Okay, but he works with you in that same organization. So you cannot be casual when you are communicating officially. Okay. Say, for example, I'm going on a vacation and I want to hand over my duties to my colleague. So I have to send him an email. Okay. Now, what I can do is I can use some casual words, some informal words, because I know him personally, but I need to keep the letter formal. Okay. I can say, hey, Govind, for example, right? Because Govind was my colleague. All right. So, hey, Govind, all right. Instead of saying, dear Govind, or being formal about it. All right. And I can go about writing my letter and ask him to take over my responsibilities in the most formal way possible. Okay. So you are in a formal setting. All right. But you share a personal relationship with this person. You've met him before, you hang out with him often, and you know this person. You talk to him often. Okay. So that is a semi formal letter. A personal letter, everybody knows. Okay. Whenever you write a letter to your friend or your family or your girlfriend, all of these become personal letters. Okay. Whether you want to invite them over for a get together or you want to, tell them that you will be visiting them in the holidays or whatever. So all these are personal letters. Okay. Now, when you read this letter, okay, there were instructions given to you, precise instructions. It says in your letter, introduce yourself, ask to leave the flat before the contract finishes, and explain why you need to break the contract. Okay. Now, when you are writing this question, all right, in the IELTS test, you have to address all 3 points. Okay. This is task achievement in letters. Okay. If you miss out on even a single point, you lose a lot of marks. Okay. Your score, your band score, no matter how good vocabulary you have, how good you've presented the essay or the letter, your marks plummet. Okay. If there is no task achievement, forget it. All right. So you need to address all 3 points. Okay. Along with following a proper opening and a proper closing of letters. Even essays have formats, okay? And that would require an entire webinar to explain the formats of letters. So I'm just going to mention them, okay? So essay formats are opinion-based essays. Opinion-based essays are the ones that the one that we just saw in the first example. Give your opinion, okay? Whether you agree or disagree, right? That's number one. Number two, it's a discussion essay where you're given two arguments, okay, and you are asked to discuss both. You cannot choose, you have to discuss both, okay? Then you have the problem and solution essay, okay, where the essay question gives you a problem and asks you for a solution. Then there is the advantages and disadvantages essay, where you will be listing out either the advantages or the disadvantages of a concept, okay, or both sometimes. Then we have the direct essay. Direct essay is a combination of any of the four. Okay, it can be a combination of two or three or all four essays. You can't really tell. Commonly it is two essays. It's usually an opinion-based essay and a discussion-based essay together. Okay, so these are the formats of essays, and there is a complete structure to those essays, which requires a lot more time to explain, which we will do in our future webinars. I promise you that. Okay, so remember this point: not knowing the type of letters or essays or reports can be very fatal. Okay, now, along with the format and the type of letters, you also need to know the correct openings and closings of the letter. Okay, always remember that. Now, don't ignore that. Okay, don't think that, okay, you know what, I can use some random opening or some random closing. Okay, so that's about it for this point. Let's move on to the next one, which is also speaking about letters. Okay, the tone of letters. Okay, now when I speak about the tone, you might have a question as to, well, In a letter, you're not speaking, right? There is no verbal communication. How would you know whether you are rude in a letter or polite in a letter? Okay, you can know. Okay, the reason being the type of language that you use, okay, can actually determine the tone of letters. Okay, let's look at an example. Now, I was expecting a consignment from a person, from a company, which did not arrive. Now, I'm asking, as to where is my consignment? Okay, look at the first example. I've just, introduced a two-line letter. Okay, okay, dear sir, we were expecting a consignment of sneakers on the 14th of September 2019, and it has been a week past the deadline, and I still haven't received it. Where on earth is it? Okay, sincerely, Rahim. Now, what do you think is the problem here? What's wrong in this part? Can anybody tell me? Where on earth? Yes. Little too harsh? Yep. A kind of abuse. All right. It's a complaint. I'll come to that, Barid. Hmm. Rude. Okay. Informal. All right. Well, a lot of you got it right. Uh, First of all, yes, it is very, very rude. Okay. The reason being, I have used caps. Never use caps in your letters. Okay. When you use caps, it means you're shouting. Okay. That is how letters are interpreted. Okay. When you use caps, like, where on earth is it? You're shouting at them. You're like, where on earth is it? Like, I want to use a bad word, but I can't. So, okay, forget it. All right. So always remember, using caps in your letters or emails means you're shouting, and shouting is a big no-no. Okay, no, always. All right. So always remember, when you're writing letters, you need to sound polite. Okay, politeness is the first step into writing a good letter. Okay, if you're polite, you have achieved 50% of what you are trying to achieve in a letter. Okay, so how can I remodel this, and how can I write a letter trying to complain? Now, Varid, when I say it's a complaint, I can complain in a letter. Okay, I can complain, I can raise a finger, I can fire somebody, I can do everything, but I need to do it politely. Okay, like, if I have to say you're fired, okay, instead I can say your services are not required. Okay, now this makes it sound better. Okay, it makes it sound nicer. We have these euphemisms in English. Euphemisms are these, words that, turn a very harsh word into a very nice word. Okay, so always be polite. Now, how can you be polite? First, never use direct language. Okay, direct language is always a no-no in letters, especially a formal letter. Okay, always remember, direct language means being rude. Okay, if somebody sends you an email saying, I hope that you received our consignment. Okay, and if you want to say yes or a no, don't just type in a yes or a no. That's being direct. Okay, instead, stretch on the sentence, saying that, uh, thank you for getting in touch with us, and yes, we received your consignment on this date, and we are very happy that you could deliver this consignment to us before the deadline. Okay, so that's a nicer way to close a deal, rather than saying, yeah, 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 I got it, dude. You know, that's really informal. And when you're writing letters, okay, I'll come to that, Hanzala. Hanzala, if you have any questions, right, give it to me after the webinar. Okay. All right. So we'll have a Q&A session after the webinar. Okay. All right. So as I was saying, you shouldn't be too direct in your letters. Now, how can you not be direct? There is something in English called active voice and passive voice. Active voice is used when you are saying something directly. Okay, say for example, I did this project. Okay, when I say I did this project, there is a lot of me involved in it. Okay, there is arrogance, there is attitude, there is ego, right? And when I say I did this project, I'm taking the credit, whether the other person likes it or not, right? Instead, this is what is called an active voice. Okay, I did this project. You are putting yourself first, okay, and you're saying that you did the project, right? So this is active voice. Now let's see how you can soften it with a passive voice. Passive voice is always a softener. Okay, it's like your it's like easy, the thing that washes your woolens, right? That makes it really soft. Passive voice is like that, right? So when you use passive voice for the same sentence, you can go like, instead of saying this, I did this project, you can say, this project was done by me. Okay? When you say this project is done by me, the complete element of arrogance is gone. Why? Because you're putting that project first. Then you are bringing yourself in. Okay? And it sounds nicer. Instead of saying I, you're saying me. Me sounds nicer, doesn't it? Right? So always use passive voice in your letters, okay? Especially in a formal letter. Never use active voice. Active voice is too direct and too dangerous, okay? It can make and break a deal. It can make and break a letter, okay? So avoid being too direct with words, okay? Always use passive voice and be polite. Those are the 3 pointers for this error. Okay, now let me read out how I could have written the rude letter in a polite fashion. Okay, I'm still complaining. Okay, I'm not ignoring that fact. All right, I am still complaining, but I'm you know changing my words and making it sound polite. Okay, so the second example, dear sir, we ordered a consignment of sneakers which was due to reach us on 14 September 2019. However, it has now been a week past the deadline and the consignment has not yet been received. Could you kindly update us on its whereabouts and explain the reason for this delay? See, I have given him that complaint. He got the idea that I haven't received my shoes or my sneakers, right? He got the idea that I'm complaining, okay? And he also got the idea of what I want from him, okay? Could you kindly update us on its whereabouts? So instead of saying where on earth is it, I'm actually requesting him to tell us where the consignment is. Okay. In this way, that person gets the point that, yes, the consignment hasn't reached him. I'll have to look into it. And also, he is not offended just because because you were polite. Okay. So always be polite with your letters, be it a formal letter, be it a semi-formal letter or a personal letter. Okay, always. All right, now let's move on to the next one. Okay, whoa. All right, ineffective introductions. The problem with the Indian audience when they give IELTS is they don't know how to start something. We always have that starting problem. Okay, now introductions are so important in IELTS, especially in the writing module. In the essay question, where without the introduction, without a proper introduction, the body of the essay would seem, would just seem, it would be nullified. The body of the essay would hold no significance without a proper introduction. Okay, so I'm going to tell you how you can effectively introduce, your essays. Now, I told you to read the question and understand it, and not, digress from the point and to write to the point, right? Now, and I also told you how to overcome a writer's block. Now, this is an extension to that. Okay, an effective introduction will never make you hit the writer's block. You will never hit a writer's block when you have an effective introduction. Why? Because you're including three things here. Okay, three main things that will avoid you from getting confused with your own ideas. Okay, the first thing, background statement. Okay, now background statement is you are paraphrasing the question. You have seen the question, okay, and you are talking about the question, but you are using different words to communicate the same idea. Okay, so that is called a background statement. Okay, background statement gives you the background of the topic in question. Okay, so how do you write a background statement? You take the question, you modify it, all right, without changing the meaning. You are only presenting it with different words. This is called paraphrasing. Okay, let's look at an example. There is a good deal of evidence that increasing car use is contributing to global warming and having other undesirable effects on people's health and well-being. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? Okay, now again, we have read the question and we have to understand it. So it's asking us whether we agree or disagree on the fact that increasing car use or automobile use is contributing to global warming or not. Okay, so that's the general idea. Now let's see how to write the background statement. Okay, you're just doing it in 2 lines. That's it. All right, 1 or 2 lines. You're just summarizing the entire question in 2 lines, but you use different words always. You don't repeat the same words. That's what our Indian students do. Okay, uh, there is a good deal of evidence that increasing car use is blah 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 blah. We say that because we write and we say whatever we have to say. That is not how you introduce a background statement in the essay. Okay, this is not school. This is not Bangalore University. Okay, Bangalore University can actually forgive you for all this, but not the IELTS evaluators. Okay, they are going to be very harsh on you. All right. Now, if you if you want to paraphrase this exact statement, how would you do it? Now, look at the change in language and the change in words, but the meaning remains the same. Okay, you have to focus on that. All right. So 2 lines. That's it. So, rising global temperatures and human health and fitness issues are often viewed as being caused by the expanding use of automobiles. See, it's being completely changed, but the meaning is intact. Okay, that is how you write a background statement. And this is not the only background statement you can write. You can write a lot of your own ideas. You can bring in your natural writing skills and you can use different words. This is just one of the ways to write an introduction, a background statement, right? But when you actually practice enough, all right, you will get a proper paraphrase in no time. Okay, you need to practice as much as possible. All right, so that is the background statement. You need to paraphrase the question. All right, that's number one. Number two, we're going into something called the thesis statement. Okay, the thesis statement tells you your stand on the topic. Now, what is this essay asking you to do? It's asking you to give your opinion, right? To what extent do you agree or disagree with the statement? Right? It's your opinion. Now, in the thesis statement, you are just telling the evaluator your stand on the topic, whether you agree, whether you disagree, whether you partially agree. Okay? So let's read the example. This essay agrees that increasing use of motor vehicles is contributing to rising global temperatures and certain health issues. Okay, see, again, we are trying to write the question in a different way. Okay, never repeat what you see in the question. Okay, but I don't mean to say change every word in the essay question. No, I'm not saying that, because there are some words that cannot be changed. They do not have a synonym. All right, synonyms are similar, words that are similar in meaning. Okay, so if you know the synonyms of a word, okay, you can easily paraphrase a statement. All right, and again, I'm telling you, you don't have to do it for every single word. You don't have to find a synonym for every single word, because that's impossible. As many as possible. Look, increasing, okay, has a synonym, rising. Okay, car use, okay, use of automobiles. The use word is not changed. You can use that. All right, you can let it stay. You don't have to change a synonym. You don't have to use a synonym there. Okay, but car can be called an automobile or motor vehicle. All right, so these are called synonyms, and there are many synonyms in English, and it's a good idea to learn as many as possible, because this will help you in paraphrasing your statement. Okay, all right, so that's the thesis statement, number two. Number three, and the most important, once you write this statement, you will not hit a writer's block. Okay, you will not digress in your body of the essay. Okay, so this is called the outline statement. Okay, now the outline statement is very important in an essay, because it tells you what this essay is going to discuss. Okay, so that is what we are going to find out. Now, the outline statement, where I'm starting from the third line in the example. Firstly, this essay will discuss the production of greenhouse gases by vehicles. And secondly, it will discuss other toxic chemicals released by internal combustion engines. Now, you have an idea as to what to write. First, you will discuss the production of greenhouse gases, how greenhouse gases are produced by a vehicle, etc., etc. Then you will discuss other toxic chemicals released by internal combustion engines, right? You can go about this answer in your style. This is just one way to do it. Okay, always remember, excuse me, always remember, you don't have to, you know, follow one particular style or pattern. Okay, you can use your own unique style to go ahead and present your essay. Okay, always remember that. So, if you want to write an effective introduction, you need a proper background statement, which is a paraphrase of the question. Second is a good thesis statement, okay, which is whether you are agreeing or disagreeing or partially agreeing, your stand on the topic, okay? And then you have an outline statement. An outline statement gives an outline as to what you're going to write in your essay, in the body of the essay, right? So remember this, if you are able to write a correct and effective introduction, your essay is just going to come out very smoothly. Okay, so get the introduction right and everything will fall into its place. Okay, all right, moving on. Yes, now we have completed a little bit about the structure and the silly mistakes that we happen to do in the IELTS writing module. But now we are going to discuss some technical and some grammatical errors. Okay, now not knowing your vocabulary is going to be fatal. It's going to be devastating if you don't know your vocabulary. Vocabulary is new words, the number of words to express an idea. Okay, so the more words you know, or the more words you're familiar with, the better it is in IELTS writing, because you can use them, right? Okay, now I'm not asking you to memorize the dictionary. Okay, so I'm going to spare you from that hassle. Okay, now when I say not knowing your vocabulary, I mean to say you can use words that you know. Of course you can, without question. All right. Be natural, be yourself when you write an essay, but be sure of what you know. Okay. There are some students. Now, here's what my student did. He used to write some words in his essay that had nothing to do with the essay at all. Okay. He had nothing to do. Or he would write a word that meant something different, but he would write it in a context that was talking about a different thing. Okay. So you need to be clear about the meaning of the word. Okay. And also in which context it can be used. Okay. I'm going to come to the context after the break. Okay. But for now, we are going to discuss the meanings. Okay. You need to know the meanings of your words before you present them. Okay. You need to know the exact meaning of the word. Even if you have the slightest doubt about whether your word is could be something else, don't use it. Okay. That's a risk. Evaluators are looking for words like these where you have misused them in a different sentence, which is out of context. Okay. Now, I would like to ask you a question. All right. Now, I'm going to read you an example. That point he made is irregardless to this debate. Now, what is the meaning of irregardless? Quickly, give me an answer. What is irregardless? Not considering to the question. Okay. Anybody else? Word doesn't exist. Nadia, regardless. No, I'm asking about irregardless. Okay, you've given me your answers. Failing in the commitment. Oh my goodness, Ashad. Some strong words there, huh? Okay. All right. Nadia, you got it right. Word doesn't exist. There is no word in the English dictionary that's spelled that way, irregardless. There is no word in the English dictionary. You won't find it. Okay. Irregardless does not exist. Okay. But just because you know, regular is irregular, regardless became irregardless. This is our Indian smartness. We do this. And this is from an Indian candidate's paper. Okay. So I pulled it up and I asked him, what does this mean? And he said, oh, something that is not regardless. I was like, okay. And then I explained to him that the word doesn't exist. He couldn't believe me. He had to go and check the dictionary to find out that it actually doesn't exist. Okay, so please know the words that you're using. Okay, here's another one. I had an ironic incident while coming to work. I stepped into a puddle and twisted my ankle. Now, what's wrong with this sentence? Can anybody tell me very quickly? I had an ironic incident while coming to work. I stepped into a puddle and twisted my ankle. Very quickly, guys. That situation is not ironic. Okay. Unexpected. Aha. As expected. Thank you, Hanzala. Okay. All right. Well, Hanzala, you did exactly what I was expecting everybody to do, but one of you got it right. Nadia, you're right. That's not an ironic situation. Okay. Irony is not unfortunate. Okay. Irony is not unfortunate. It's, as Hanzala said, unexpected. Okay. You expect something, all right, and the other person, sorry, something else happens, something that is opposite to that situation. Say, for example, you are late from work, okay, and your wife or your mother she's angry, you know, and you know that she would be angry because you're going home late. Okay. But when you reach home, your mother is not angry. She is happy for some reason. That is an ironic situation because you expected her to be angry, but she is not. Okay. So that's an ironic situation. Here, irony has been translated into unfortunate. Okay. I had an ironic incident. He's saying that I had an unfortunate incident while coming to work. It's wrong. Okay. So know the correct usage, the correct meaning of the word before you include that in a sentence. Okay. Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, Hansala. You were both correct. Okay. So knowing your vocabulary, know the words that you use and make sure you're confident about the meaning. If you're unsure, don't do it. Okay. All right. Quickly. Let's move on to the next one. Aha. Okay. This is very important. And uh, as Indian audiences, we are not very familiar with this concept. You know, when we are talking about linking phrases, uh, when there are two sentences or three sentences that have a logical connection with each other, they need to be linked with certain phrases. Okay, they need to be linked with certain words. That is a general rule in English. Okay, you cannot leave them independent. Okay, so what happens is two sentences or three sentences are separated by a full stop or a period. Okay, now this period is making those sentences independent of the other two or the other one, right? But it is necessary, becomes necessary for, you know, the writers, whoever's writing the essay, it becomes necessary to use linking words because it gives you that logical, you know, it gives you a logical connection. Okay. Now, along with task achievement, you remember that criterion? Okay. Along with that, there is another criterion, okay, that the IELTS evaluators are looking at. They are looking at two things, cohesion and coherence. Okay. Cohesion in your essays and letters means how strongly are the sentences bound together? Okay. How strongly are they related? Okay. That's cohesion. Coherence means whether your sentences have a logical relationship and whether they are consistent. Okay. So you need to achieve consistency and you need to achieve that cohesion. All right. That connect. And that can happen with linking phrases. Okay. Here's an example. Mexicans will prefer Madrid as their most visited city. Full stop. Americans will most likely go to Paris. Full stop. Canadians love traveling to Istanbul the most. Full stop. Now, what is happening here? When you put a full stop every time, you are separating the sentences from each other, although they have a logical relationship. Okay? Look at the logical relationship here. They're talking about a particular type of people. All right? And they're talking about a particular destination. So these three sentences are connected to traveling. Okay, so if they have this logical connection, it becomes the duty of the person who's writing the essay to link these three. Okay, with linking, you achieve cohesion and you achieve coherence. So you will have consistency, logical understanding, you know, there's going to be a logical connection, and there will be a strong connect between the sentences. Okay, so let's see how this sentence will look when we include linking phrases. To begin with, Mexicans will prefer Madrid as their most visited city. In contrast, Americans will most likely go to Paris. Lastly, Canadians love traveling to Istanbul the most. Now, to begin with, in contrast, lastly. Now, these are linking phrases. See how they brought the sentences together. Okay, this is what linking phrases do. All right. Now you know that these three sentences are interrelated. Okay. They are not independent like the first sentence. Always use linking phrases in your essays and letters. Okay. There are many linking phrases, many, like there are hundreds. You don't have to know all of them, but know enough to use them. Okay. I've given you about 5 columns of linking phrases, and there are a lot more. Know their meaning, okay, before you use them. A lot of people confuse the term however. They think however means, it is a synonym of and. It's not a synonym of and. However is a synonym of but, okay? Instead of but, you can use however, not after and. After and, you can use moreover, not however, okay? All right, so always connect your sentences to achieve coherence and cohesion. Use the right word in the right place. Don't mix it up, all right? And this is another thing. Never separate two sentences with a comma, okay, or a full stop. Always use these linking phrases. If you use linking phrases, you will achieve consistency, and that is what the IELTS evaluator is looking for, okay? All right, so we are down to the last three, and then we shall take a break, okay? Okay, now, using contractions, not allowed, not allowed in IELTS. Writing essays or letters or reports, you cannot use contractions. Okay, contractions are those shortenings of words. You shorten some words just for the heck of it, just because you're too lazy to go ahead and write it, right? Like cannot becomes can't. Will not will become won't. Couldn't, shouldn't, will, I am, gimme, gotta, gonna, lotta. All of this should go. When you're writing, you write the complete word. Okay, there is no other explanation. Okay, please do not contract words. You are not talking informally. Look, speaking and writing are two different things. Okay, when you write, you cannot write like you speak. Okay, because when you're speaking, you don't really focus too much about these formalities that you focus on when you're writing. Okay, so keep the speaking aside. All right, use these rules for writing, these unwritten rules, all right, these formalities. Use these formalities when you're writing an essay or a letter, okay? Because essays need to be clear, okay? They cannot be informal. They cannot sound casual or hip, right? They need to sound professional, okay? So make sure you achieve that. Don't contract words, okay? That is your point number 8. A lot of students do this, okay? A lot of people, even write short forms or SMS language or WhatsApp language, For YOU, they'll write U, right? The letter U. And good night, G8, GN8, that's it, right? Don't do all that, okay? You are going to cause devastation in your papers. Forget 5.5, you will get a 2, okay? Of course, you're not get a 2 because 2 is for really bad students, but you will get a 4 at least, which is very bad, okay? I don't want you to miss out on silly mistakes. That is the entire point of this webinar. Okay, I don't want you to miss out on silly mistakes. I don't want you to do technical mistakes, and I need you to know the technical aspects of writing an essay and a letter. Okay, so always remember, don't contract words. Contract means bringing them and making them shorter, right? Compressing them. Don't do that. All right, moving on. Uh-huh. Yep. This is a common, confusion with candidates, and it's not their fault because we've never been explicitly told whether to insert numbers or write letters, okay, or express them in words, okay. Now here's what I follow in my teaching. Okay, you can include numbers for specific things. Okay, and you have to include numbers in those situations because you cannot go around it. Okay, for example, you always have to write numbers for dates. Okay, time, all right, percentage, or any address related numbers like apartment number, street number, pin code, right, your postal code, telephone number, credit card number. All of these have to be in the number format. You cannot write them in words. Okay, you'd just be called stupid if you do that. But what about the other numbers? How do you go about that? All you have to do is remember these 2 points. Okay, if a number is too long, okay, like for example, 1947, okay, you cannot write that in words. You will have to write that in the number format, right? So when a number exceeds 3 words or exceeds 2 words, write them in the number format. If it is below or is equal to 2 words, then write the number format. So 1, 2, 3, 4, write them in the word format. Okay. And if it is, 155, write them in a number format. It's as simple as that. Okay. So if a number has more than 2 words, then use the number form. If number has 2 words or less than 2 words, then write the word form. Okay. It's as simple as that. Okay. So I'm not saying this is a very silly error. I would say that this error wasn't addressed before. Okay, so always remember there are some numbers that you cannot represent in words, that list I have just mentioned, right? And we also know when to include words, when we can express numbers in words. Okay, all right, so that's about it for this point. My last point before we go into the break. Okay, using the correctly. Now the is an article. A lot of students confuse the with a lot of other nouns. Okay, the is an article. You need to understand this. And the is not used for every noun. See, articles are always used for nouns. Okay, they are not used for verbs, prepositions, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, conjunctions, interjunctions, nothing. They're only used for nouns. Okay, now the article the is used to specify a particular noun. Okay, like you are talking about a particular thing or a particular object, that is when you use the. Okay, say for example there's a book on your table. Okay, and I point to that book. I say, give me the book. You know that I'm talking about that book on the table. Okay, so that is when you use the. When you pinpoint and when you particularly refer to that particular item, that's when you use the. Okay, now when do you not use the? Oh, there are other situations too. For example, if countries, have a collection of states or a collection of islands or emirates or whatever, right? You can use the. Okay, so the United States of America, the United Arab Emirates, okay, um, the Caribbean islands, okay. So you can use the for those nouns, okay, which constitute a lot of other places, right? And you can do it for superlatives. What are superlatives? Superlatives are the most, the tallest, the strongest, the fattest, the thinnest, the smallest. When you talk about a superlative, you can use the there. Okay, you have to. There is no other way. You cannot ignore the there. But the situations where you cannot use the, okay, are also prevalent in English. And if you do not know this, you might lose marks, all right? Because we tend to use the everywhere. because we think that, yes, the is a very safe article. No, it becomes dangerous now. Let me tell you how. First, the is not used for any proper noun, okay, like a name, uh, Ravi, or uh, Barid, or Nadia, or Jinsi. All right, you cannot use the there, right? You simply cannot, because it's a proper noun, right? There is another situation where you cannot use the, and a lot of people don't know this. All right, they tend to use it because they've been taught that you can use the for common nouns. Okay, but when you are talking about something generally, okay, when you're talking about something generally, all right, you cannot use the there. For example, coffee has caffeine, okay, or coffee contains caffeine. Now, what do I mean by, sorry, what am I trying to say here? I am not talking about a particular type of coffee. I am talking about coffee. I'm not, talking about Jamaican coffee or filter coffee or cafe coffee day coffee. No, I'm talking about, you know, coffee generally. It could be from anywhere, because I know that all coffee contains caffeine. Okay, so I'm talking about it generally, so I cannot use the. Okay, here's another example. Governments around the world. I'm not talking about a particular type of government. I'm not talking about the Chinese government or the Japanese government or the Russian government or the Indian government. I'm talking about governments. Okay, I'm talking about them generally. Okay, so never use the when you are talking about a general topic. All right, or when you are using the noun in a general way. All right, so if you understand this point, all right, you will understand this entire error that people make. Okay, don't use the for proper nouns and for general things. Okay, now, having said that, all right, we all need a break. You've been listening for almost an hour and a half, and I have been talking for more than an hour and a half. Okay, so we all need a break. Take a 10-minute break. Okay, in this time you can eat, drink, smoke, and potty. Okay, and I'll be right back with you in 10 minutes. So it is, what time there? What's the time there in India? 11:23. So we see you here at 11:33. Okay, great. All right, I'll see you back here, guys. All right, fellas, let's continue. Is everybody back? Everyone, quickly give me a thumbs up. Yes. Okay. What about the rest? We'll just give it a minute. Okay, if you're back, please say yes, or present, or whatever. Okay, you know what? Let's continue. Okay, now we're coming to the vocabulary section. Okay, now we're done with the common errors that you make, okay, in an IELTS writing test. Now we need to focus on vocabulary. Okay, remember that 25% of your marks, okay, are for vocabulary. Okay, so make sure you use the correct vocabulary when you are doing the writing test. All right. Now, there are certain things that you need to keep in mind when you are, playing with vocabulary. Okay. The first is paraphrasing. I believe that I have already covered this, but there is a little more that I have to explain. Okay. Paraphrasing or collocation. Now, what do I mean by collocation? Collocation means a noun and a verb. When they are put into a sentence together, they need to agree with each other. Okay? Those are called collocations. All right? So there are times where a noun and a verb might not be connected or might not have any relation. Okay? So what do I mean by it? Let's look at an example and find out. All right? We have an example, a word called consume. Okay? Now, a synonym for consume is eat. Okay? If you want to consume food, it means you're eating food. Okay? Now, let's see how we can put that in a sentence. So, we're talking about somebody, all right? He consumes huge amounts of bread with every meal. Okay? Now, if we want to introduce the word eat, okay, this is how we're going to do it. He eats huge amounts of bread with every meal. Okay. Now, this sentence is correct. The collocation is correct. He, that is a noun or a pronoun, okay, and eats, they agree with each other because he, being a human, can eat. All right. Now, let's consider this example. My car consumes 6 gallons of fuel every 100 miles. This is a correct sentence. All right. But can you use eat here? My car eats 6 gallons of fuel for every 100 miles. Doesn't sound right. Why? Because the noun, that's car, and eats, they don't relate. Okay? They do not have any connection. When is the last time you saw a car eat? Or when is the last time you took your car for dinner? Right? So obviously here the collocation is wrong. So what I mean to say is just because you have a synonym of a word does not mean that that word is applicable in every sentence. Okay? The context matters here. Okay? You need to know the context in which the word is used. Now, consume can be used for both because there is another meaning of consume. It doesn't just mean eat, it also means use. Okay? Use is a synonym of consume. And when you use the word use in the sentence, all right, then it makes sense. My car uses 6 gallons of fuel for every 100 miles. Now there is now there is a collocation. Now there is a relation between the noun and the verb. Okay, so you need to be careful. All right, just because you know synonyms does not mean that you can actually get away with a sentence. Okay, it needs to agree with each other. All right, so know your synonyms, but at the same time, know the context in which those synonyms were used. All right, okay. The next part of vocabulary is uncountable nouns. A lot of students, what they do is they add plural to an uncountable noun. You cannot do that to an uncountable noun. An uncountable noun cannot be counted. The word, the name itself, is self-explanatory, right? So if you use plural with an uncountable noun, like for example, rice, okay, rice is an uncountable noun, all right? Because you cannot count how many rice pieces are there. You can count grains of rice, but not rice as a collective noun and an uncountable noun. Okay, so rice cannot be, cannot have a plural. Okay, the same goes with water or coffee. Okay, or furniture. Oh, this is a word that's often mistaken. All right, a lot of people write furnitures, which is wrong. Furniture is an uncountable noun. You're not counting the furniture, okay? Although you might have a countable number of furniture in your room, but that does not mean furniture is a countable noun, okay? An uncountable noun is always in its singular form, okay? Not in the plural form, all right? You can all hear me, can't you? Yes? Okay, perfect. All right. Um, just give me a second. There is a person who is having issues with connection. Okay, let's move on. So, all right. Okay, what's wrong with you? Okay, let's move on. Now, when I talk about uncountable nouns, you need to use certain words to describe it or ask a question about it. Okay? Say for example, if you want to ask the quantity of an uncountable noun, then you talk about, you say it in saying how much, okay? Instead of saying how many, okay? When you say how much, it is implied that you are talking about an uncountable noun. When you say many, it's for a countable noun, okay? Now, if you want to reply to it, you say not much. How much rice do you have? Not much. Or I have some rice. Or I have a lot of rice. Okay? Always remember to use the phrase a lot of. There are three words in it. Okay? A lot of students, what they do is they omit the article a. Okay? They say, I have lot of rice. No, that doesn't work. Okay, so you need to use the correct form of expressing an uncountable noun. Okay, and when you are using a demonstrative pronoun like this, that, these, those. Okay, so you use this and that for an uncountable noun. You use the singular pronoun. You don't use the plural pronouns. You don't use these rice or those rice. Okay, you say this rice and that rice. Okay, so this is how you can express an uncountable noun. Always remember, uncountable nouns are in the singular form. They're always in the singular form, and nothing on God's earth can change that. Okay, all right. So paraphrasing and collocations and uncountable nouns. All right. Okay. Now, when we talk about vocabulary and when we talk about IELTS, right? I told you that the academic module might have a map as well, or a graph, or a chart, right? So there are certain words that you can use, or there are certain words that you must use in a graph, okay? And two common words that Indians use are increase, decrease. These are the only two words I ever get to see in my students' papers. Okay, increase, decrease. The graph shows an increase in blah 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 and a decrease in blah 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 blah. Then the graph further increases, then it further decreases. It keeps on repeating. Okay, instead you can use other words: rise, fall, decline, drop, plummet. All right. And you can also use adjectives and adverbs to describe how the fall or the rise or the increase or the decrease was. Okay, you need to know these adjectives: dramatic increase, dramatic decrease, drastic increase, okay, or increased steeply, okay, or decreased, or it fell substantially, okay, or it had a steady increase or a steady rise, Okay, so you can use these adjectives along with these nouns or verbs, okay, to express your ideas on a graph, for the section A of the IELTS paper for the academic module, right? Now, the nouns that I talked about are called verbal nouns. They are a type of noun. Now, verbal nouns are words that are both used as a noun and as a verb. Okay. Now, these verbs and nouns, these words can actually be used as either one of them. Okay. Say, for example, let's look at an example here. Now, when I talk about increase, okay, I'm talking about a noun here. How do I know it's a noun? It has an article. Okay. Delhi saw a significant increase in the price of tomatoes. Okay, significant increase, and you have an article before it. Okay, so you know that increase here is a noun. Now let's see how it is as a verb. The price of tomatoes in Delhi increased significantly. How do you know it's a verb here? Because the word increase has a tense. Okay, so increase is in the past tense. Okay, so that is why these words are called verbal nouns. They can be used as a noun as well as a verb. Okay, all right, so know as many verbal nouns as possible. Okay, and know these adjectives and adverbs that can help you with, you know expressing your ideas for a graph or a chart. Okay, never use one constant word. Increase, 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 increase everywhere. You can play around with words. Okay, so always remember, when you are using graphs, you can use all of these verbal nouns and all of these adjectives, and there are a lot more. All you have to do is research, read more, okay, understand more. All right, and try to use that in your writing, whenever you practice an essay or a letter. Okay, okay, all righty. Let's move on to the next topic. Time expressions. Now, this is a very small topic. All right. Again, when we talk about time expressions, the most used expression in IELTS papers is nowadays. A lot of students use this nowadays, but there are a lot of other words that can be used to express time, and you need to know when these time expressions can be used at what time. Okay, so at present can be used for something that's happening in the present. Okay, or until then. All right, or meanwhile. Meanwhile is when something was happening, an event was happening. In the same time when that event was happening, there was another event happening at a different place. That is when we use meanwhile. Okay, over a period of time. Okay, now this talks about, this is a mistake that people make. We often tend to say over the period of time. Okay, you don't have to do, this is wrong. All right, over a period of time is correct. Here's an example. Over a period of 10 years, he swindled hundreds of people. So for 10 years, he swindled hundreds of people. That is what over a period of actually means. All right. Or you can also use on one occasion if you're talking about a particular occasion happening, that happened in the past. All right. You can always use on one occasion. All right. So let's go ahead and look at some examples. Peter was a very different person at that time. This was some time in the past. Okay. Maybe 5 years in the past or 10 years. You're not saying, you're not specifying, but you're using it anyway. Okay. Neil Armstrong stepped out and prepared to disembark from his shuttle. Meanwhile, while he was doing that, meanwhile, back on Earth, everyone was glued to their TV sets with anticipation. Okay, so you need to know when a time expression can be used at what time. Okay, so you need to know the tenses, you need to know when that situation happened, etc. Okay, alrighty. Map language. Now, just like how you would get a graph in section A of the academic module, you might also get a map. And there are certain words that we can use, or we need to understand to properly express our ideas for that map. Okay. Now, directions are very important. Okay, especially when you are describing a map, you need to know what is north, what is south, what is east, what is west, and all the northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast. Okay, these are common. All right, you can use these. But when you're using vocabulary, okay, you can use a lot of vocabulary here. I've listed out some of them, but you can use a lot. Okay, you can use a lot more. Located. You don't have to use the word located every time you go about, when you want to say that something is located somewhere. All right. You can use situated. You can use located. You can say it lies in. Okay. Or if you're talking about a river that's going through a village, you can say running through or passing through. Okay. Or if something is adjacent to something else, you can say next to. All right. Or you can say beside. All right. Be careful when you use the word beside. Beside and besides are two different words. Beside means the position next to you. All right. He is standing beside me. Right. But when you use the word besides, you're saying other than that. Okay. That's the context that you're using besides for. So be careful with that S. One extra S can change the meaning of the sentence. All right. Okay, so that is the map language. So every single question type, all right, in the academic module or the general training module will have vocabulary that you can learn. All right, and learning specific vocabulary to that specific question type is very important. All right, so go ahead and learn, all right, as many as you can. I'm not asking you to learn all of them, but at least a considerable amount. Okay, all righty. Now we're coming to style and content and the delivery of your essays, letters, and reports. The first thing that a lot of people ignore is plagiarism. Plagiarism in Indian terms is copying. Okay, we have done that in school. We've done that in colleges, right? We whenever we had a project, right? We never bothered to actually do it by ourselves. Rather, we just picked out some other university person's project and we did that, right? We completed it and added our name, did a few adjustments, gave it away. Doesn't work that way in IELTS. The very reason that you can memorize an essay can be devastating for you because evaluators are trained to look at specific essays. They know whether an essay has been memorized or whether it has come out natural. Okay, they always know that. You cannot get around that. So always be natural with your essays. Okay, never copy them, never memorize them. Why do you want to memorize an essay? Okay, it talks about a general topic, and you need to be a complete dumbo, all right, to actually not know about the topic because the topic is very general. Okay, they're not going to ask you about the gravitational force of the earth. They're not going to ask you to write an essay upon rocket science and Einstein's theory of relativity. They're not going to ask you all that, right? They're going to ask you general things. And they don't even ask you, culturally specific things. They ask you things that happen around the world. Okay, so why would you want to memorize something that you already have a general idea about? Right? So natural way of writing, okay, always gives your style and your content and your delivery an extra boost because it is your unique style that's going out. Okay, so always remember, be natural in your essays. Okay, all right. Circumlocution. Now, this is called beating around the bush. You don't answer to the point, right? Now, the thing about this is the reason why you beat around the bush is number one, you don't understand the question. Okay, we have already established that. The second reason is you might actually go blank when you want to, express an idea or a word, and you're not finding that particular word to express that idea. Okay, so you tend to put that in a sentence and increase the length of the essay. All right, what could be done with one word? You write a whole sentence for that. All right, say for example, um, I have a friend who is just not very reliable. You don't have to do that. You can say, I have a unreliable friend. Unreliable tells you that he is not reliable at all, right? So always be concise. Okay, concision is key in IELTS. The reason being, evaluators get bored. Okay, don't bore your evaluators. And why do you want to waste time in explaining a word? Okay, or right, beating around the bush and explaining something that can be actually expressed in one single word. Okay, why do you want to, why do you want to waste time, right? So always remember, don't beat around the bush, stick to the point and be concise. Okay, concision is very important. What I mean by concision is the shorter your essays are. Okay, when I say shorter, I don't mean below 250 words. Okay, I mean when you express an idea, it should be short and sweet. Okay, it shouldn't be too long and drabby. Okay, so make sure your essays are concise. How do you be concise? You need to know your adjectives. Okay, if you know proper adjectives, you can be a lot more concise. Okay, always remember this. All right, don't stretch your essays. Again, this is not Bangalore University. Okay, in Bangalore University, you can actually write songs and everything, and the longer the answer, the more marks you get. That's a common, conception in, with our students there. So no, IELTS is not Bangalore University again. Okay, so remember, be concise. Okay, all right. Pleonasm and redundancy. Now, these two words are kind of the same, but not exactly. Pleonasm means using extra words, okay, to express something. Redundancy is the use of unnecessary words which have no meaning, like no use in that sentence whatsoever. Okay, say for example, I want to say tuna fish. Why should I say tuna fish? We already know tuna is a fish. Okay, fish is a redundant word. All right, you don't need fish. You can just say tuna, right? I saw it with my own eyes. Of course you did. There's no other way to actually see with somebody else's eyes, right? Or if, this can be used if you are very surprised at something, but your essays can't be that, they cannot be structured that way. Okay. Emergency situation. Oh, I love this. The police responded to an emergency situation. No, they didn't. They responded to an emergency. We know it is a situation. Everything is a situation, you know? So these are redundant words, all right? I received a free gift. Gift is free, right? So you don't need that free word there. You can just say, I received a gift. Finish it off there, right? So always remember never to use these unnecessary words. Think about it. It's about common sense. All right. Have a little bit of common sense. Never use two negatives together in a sentence. Okay. This is how you can overcome redundancy. All right. Never use two negatives together. Okay. A lot of Americans do this, especially African Americans. I didn't do nothing. All right. This is what they say. I didn't do nothing. If you think about it, they did something. Why? I didn't do nothing. Two negatives, when they add up mathematically, they end up to be positive, right? So they did something. So it changes the meaning of the word. All right. Never use two negatives together. Never use two superlatives together. A lot of people do this. Haven't you heard this? Oh, Burj Khalifa is the most tallest building in the world. Okay, doesn't work. Okay, you just need one superlative. Tallest will tell you that it is number one. Okay, there is nobody else in competition. All right. Again, remember to be concise. All right, and not use these redundant words in your vocabulary. Okay, and be careful with abbreviations. Why do I say this? Say, for example, ATM machine. Where are you going? I'm going to the ATM machine to draw some money. No, you're going to the ATM because ATM stands for automated teller machine, right? So be careful, all right? Omit all these, these redundant, these pleonastic words, okay, from your essays and letters. Don't use them. It's a matter of common sense. Think about it. Can you write a sentence in a different way by ignoring these words? And that's how you achieve it. All right? Okay. Well, that's it, folks. Thank you so much for attending the webinar and for all the time and patience that you invested with us. Okay. Before we leave, I'd just like to tell you something about Change Institutes International. Okay. Now, we have IELTS training programs, both for classroom as well as online. All right, so if you need any information on these courses, you can always call on the number on your screen, or if you would like to know more about our courses and the other range of courses that we have to offer, like soft skills or communicative English or nursery teacher training, etc., you can log on to our website, www.changeinstitutes.com. And if you would like to enroll for our online IELTS course, you can log on to learnersconnect.com/landing. Be sure to like us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Change Institutes, and follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn using the following links. Okay, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for all the latest information on examinations and courses and everything you need to know about IELTS. All right, so having said that, this is Rahim Bukhari signing off. Till next time.